Brian Hastings used to be known as an online cash game specialist who played big bet games like No Limit Hold'em and Pot Limit Omaha for the highest stakes. In recent years, he spent a lot of time and effort to learn the other games, and in 2015, that effort paid off with 2 WSOP bracelet wins in the $1,500 10-game mix and the $10,000 7-card stud championship. CardPlayer TV caught up with Hastings to talk a bit about how players with a background in big bet games can get into stud.
I mean, No Limit Hold'em and 7-card stud are very different games. I mean, both no limit betting versus limit betting is a large adjustment. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend someone go straight from just playing No Limit Hold'em to playing stud. I would start with like Limit Hold'em or Limit Omaha 8, where it's still a flop game. So at least some things are constant, but the betting structure is different, and then progress to stud. But I mean, as far as differences go, I mean, stud is a very mathematical game, and I think one important concept is just like once you enter a pot on 3rd Street, it's very often correct to continue all the way to 7th Street. And then on 7th Street, you're always getting a big price to call, but like there might be situations where you're getting 10-1, but the person's bluffing like only 5% of the time, and it's still a fold with one pair or whatever. So it's a different game, but at the end of the day, it's still poker, and at the end of the day, it's still all about like assigning your opponent's ranges and trying to figure out how much equity you have against their range, and if you're able to continue, and how the best way to continue is. So there are a lot of similarities, but there are a lot of differences also.
Next, we asked Hastings for some advice for novice stud high players in regards to what hands they should play past 3rd Street.
My personal style is very, very loose on 3rd Street. I mean, to the point that a lot of the players just like to needle me about how loose I am. But I would recommend for a beginning player to start a lot tighter. I think you can play profitably at stud high by just trying to play like kind of the best hand. Just like, you know, if a queen raises in an early position, I mean, you don't really want to fold pairs too often on 3rd Street unless your hand is really dead or your opponent is really tight and you can almost squarely put them on a bigger pair. But that's rare. I mean, especially when you're playing against good players, ranges are just going to be wider than that, and you're going to have enough equity with whatever pair you have. And then there are also big drawing hands too. Like, you generally want to play just about all 3 flushes, some 3 straight hands in certain situations, especially if they're overcards to the other people's up cards. So yeah, I mean, and another important concept is just up cards matter a lot, and you always have to be paying attention to them. And you know, I mean, it helps to assign ranges and also just to figure out how live your hand is. Both very important.
The next big turning point in a stud hand is 5th Street. We asked Hastings why this street is so important.
Well, I mean, obviously 5th Street, the bet sizes start to double, so that's the first. That's the first. Well, I mean, 3rd Street's a big decision, honestly. I mean, getting involved with the hand in the first place is, I would think, the biggest decision. But then 5th Street's the next biggest decision, I would say, because that's when the betting limits double. And generally, once you call that big bet on 5th, the pot just gets so big that you pretty much have to almost always continue on 6th and then make a decision on 7th, getting a pretty big price. So 5th Street is a very large decision, and but that said, even with the betting getting bigger, you're still often getting laid a pretty good price on 5th Street, and there's still several more cards to come. So equities kind of run closer than you think if you have something. So again, I'm a big believer in seeing more cards in most cases.
Thanks to Brian Hastings for his insight into 7-card stud play, and thank you for checking out this strategy video right here on CardPlayer.